Welcome to another Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson. I'm joined by the Mighty Joe Yeager. Mighty Joe, man, how you doing?
Doing all right, Jared. How you doing?
Good, man. Beautiful weather here. Kids, are they back in school yet, or no? When do they get back, Joe?
I think first day of class is either the 16th or the 18th, so they got a little breathing space still for them.
Man, they get off forever. I remember that was like the best when you were a college kid, you know? I was a college kid for a while, so, I worked for most of it, so, you know, I didn't get that much of a break. All right, great questions from y'all as usual. So we're going to start off with one from Red Raider KA. Wants to know, how would we rate the new football coaching hires in the Big 12? Joe, what do you think? Well,
you know, I've come around on Matt Wells.
Sure.
You know, remains to be seen, of course. He's got plenty to prove, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I think this could actually turn out to be a pretty good hire for Texas Tech. I'm on record with Neil Brown,
oh, yeah.
You know, at West Virginia. And what I think about him, I think he's a darn good coach. And I think he's going to elevate that program a little bit. I think he's better than Holgorsen. So I think that's an upgrade there. Les Miles is the splashy hire, but to me, he's one of the most overrated coaches in football, and I'm not expecting much out of him up there. I think it's kind of like another Charlie Weiss sort of a thing, and they shall remain in the cellar, more or less, I'm expecting.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they made this great push under Les Miles. You know, I just can't see it. I really can't. Like his personality, I like Les Miles. You hear him interviewed; he's a likable guy. But I would probably rate that. I mean, I guess for Kansas, that's a good hire. But ultimately, I would say that would be the bottom for me. All right, Joe. Well, what do you think about Kansas State's hire? Obviously, they're replacing a legend. I mean, the man's name's all over the stadium and the program. Bill Snyder, but they bring in Chris Kleiman. They go outside the family. You know, I believe he was at North Dakota State previously. Just kind of an out of the box hire. What do you think about that hire?
Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, there seems to be like something in the air or the soil in the Dakotas, right. Because they produce winners up there. I mean, yeah, generally Division II or whatever, but whether it's North Dakota, South Dakota State, or just the state university itself, they just seem to produce good programs up there. So Kleiman is obviously a very successful coach. You know, that part of the world, I mean, that's not too far from Manhattan, Kansas, so he probably plugs in to Kansas State, you know, from kind of a cultural perspective pretty well, probably a pretty good fit. So, you know, I think that has the potential of working out for him, you know?
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Matt Wells hire, to be honest, in that, like, I think if you're a fan of that particular fan base, you're probably, at this point, you've been sold. Like, all right, I like this guy a lot more than initially thought. But if you're outside, you're probably like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? You know, what is that going to mean? So I think, look, honestly, normally I think I'm wrong on a lot of these, so I hope I'm not. But I like the Matt Wells hire. Like I said, the more information I've gathered about him, the more I've gotten to know him and the staff, the more I like it. We'll see what happens. Let's get to spring ball, you know, before we really could really start seeing how they coach. But I do like the hire. Like you said, Neil Brown. That was a really good hire for West Virginia, in my opinion, as well. And then I really don't know about Chris Kleiman, and we'll just have to see about old Matt Hatter, Les Miles, in Kansas. I don't think it's going to amount to a lot, but you know what? I've been wrong before. So, Texas Tech basketball question here from Anonymous. Wants to know, with Azubuike out for KU, how does your Big 12 outlook and prediction change? Or does it?
You know, I'm like Fran Fraschilla on this one. I mean, he's gone on the record. He said, you know, ever since Shaq Abuki, as I like to call him, went down, everybody's been asking, well, who's going to win the Big 12 now? Who's going to win the Big 12? And his response has been Kansas. I'm sticking with Kansas. And, you know, I tend to agree. I think they're the favorite still. I mean, yeah, when you lose that guy, you lose a unique player, something, a serious interior post presence that you just don't see in college basketball all that much. So that's removing a dimension. But by the same token, you get more dynamic on offense. You become more of a kind of a traditional small ball, speedy kind of a basketball team. And Kansas has won playing that way ever since Bill Self has been there. And they've just still got all kinds of talent. They took the red shirt off this guy, Abaji, that 6'5" guard last night, and he went off and had a pretty good game against TCU. you know, at his first game. So I mean, they just plug it in, you know. So you lose that, and it may hurt the team a little bit, but they're such a good team. And just have so much overall skill and tradition and home court advantage that they're still going to be mighty, mighty tough.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I think when you look at the fact that they've won 14 straight Big 12 championships, I mean, they've shown a lot of resilience. They've had a lot of adversity during those years and have shown an ability to overcome it. So I'm not ready even with that, and that's a huge loss. I think it does open the door some for Tech, Iowa State, maybe Texas even. TCU, I'm not ready to say they're a contender, but they look pretty dang good early. But it opens the door for some of those schools. Kansas State, if they can really come back, and they started an 0-2 hole. But what a comeback against West Virginia the other night, man. So that's the kind of thing that can rally your season there. But, there are some teams that it's opened the door for. I mean, there's no doubt. But I'm still, like, my bank account depended on it, or my life depended on it, I would choose Kansas in a heartbeat, honestly, to still win the title.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, Kansas could afford to lose as a bookie much more easily than Kansas State could afford to lose Dean Wade. You know, I mean, that's just the difference between Kansas and just about everybody else. Is they have the overall talent to absorb that kind of a loss.
Absolutely. All right, good question, though. All right, Panther Cat wants to know, Joe, do you see Edwards or Corprew replacing Mooney or Morrow in the starting lineup by year's end? If not, how about increasing their minutes significantly by year's end? I'm going to just jump in there and just say, look, Morrow's been playing great right now, so it's really hard to imagine him losing his spot. I mean, he's up to like 9 points a game now or something this year. So I mean, he's playing well. So it's hard to see him being replaced or his minutes being cut for any reason. And I think he's learned a little bit more to adapt to American gaming, specifically Big 12 basketball, the physicality of it. We'll see. Mooney, I don't know. I'd like to see him be more decisive. When he's decisive, I think he's really good. When he's not, he's turnover prone, and it's really frustrating. You know, so but I think he's leading the team in steals. So Mooney does bring something on the other end. So what do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all kind of toyed around with this for a lot of the season. You know, do you make a move? Do you not? Bottom line, they're number 8 in the country with what they've got.
Working, yeah.
You know, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure that anybody's an upgrade. You know, over Mooney and Moretti. Yeah, they do. I mean, but you know, you look at Mooney and you say, yeah, well, you know, maybe not. But I mean, Kyler Edwards right now, he is a freshman, you know, and he makes he makes some bad decisions in terms of shot selection, some passes that'll make you scratch your head. Good defensive player, and he's got the potential to be a spark plug offensively. I think Corprew would be more of a candidate, you know, if you're going to make some sort of a move. But honestly, I don't see any real imperative to make any sort of move with the starting lineup right now. Do the numbers change as the season goes on? You know, you lose a few games, you know, the turnovers become a problem, then maybe you start looking to make sort of a move of some sort.
And I really like Corprew, but I really like what he brings off the bench too. You know what I mean? I think that's been one of the keys to the season, so is how good he's been. JB, Texas Tech Red Raider, has some recruiting questions. I'm going to rapid fire these for the sake of time, but I do have some answers to all of these for you. He says he wants to know, where do we stand, meaning where does Texas Tech stand with Gardner and Arona? And that Gardner is out of Dallas Skyline running back who committed in November to the previous coaching staff. But he's entertained a lot of other schools. He didn't sign with anybody in the early period. He's definitely going to be looking around. I'm not saying Tech is completely out of it, but we did one of those where he took all the Tech stuff off of his Twitter at one point, you know. So we're just going to have to see. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not very optimistic about Gardner. Like, I'm more optimistic about, say, Stephen Parker than I am Gardner. If that puts it in perspective. And Arona was a kicker commit from the previous staff, and you know, he used to talk to us, and he stopped talking to us. He won't. When somebody ghosts you like that, that usually means that's it. And of course, they brought in Austin McNamara, or he got a commit, or he committed on Christmas Day, and he is the #1 punter, but he's also a place kicker and kickoff specialist. So he gives you some leeway there, and then you have some other guys already on the roster. So Arona may be one that doesn't end up at Texas Tech. Next question from JB, Texas Tech Red Raider, is will there be any signees who enroll early? Yes, Simon Gonzalez, the tight end out of Magnolia West, and then the big man, and I mean that very much so, Trevor Robertson. They both will be here for spring ball, and that's good because honestly, look, they're going to need the tight ends to come on early, both Gonzalez and then Kuntz when he gets here, the Iceman when he gets here in the summer. He's going to have to be ready to go. I think he will, but it's really, they're going to need more than just one tight end. The tight end is such a pivotal role, so that's really good that getting both of those guys in there. All right, any preferred walk-ons? Yes, I just spoke with running back, really all-purpose back, Chucks Nwabuku out of Hutto. He's an all-purpose back. He's been a great receiver and running back for them. Over 3,000 all-purpose yards for Hutto in the last 2 years. I actually just talked with him on Thursday before we actually filmed this mailbag, and yeah, he's very much still with Texas Tech. He loves the new coaching staff. I do believe it's still a preferred walk-on offer, but they're going to have him play in the slot, actually, not as a running back, but as a slot receiver, and I think he's going to crush it at H there for the Red Raiders. All right, then finally, you want to know any of the color shirts, gray shirts, red shirt, blue fish, red fish, blue fish. But no, I think there is a very good blue shirt possibility in Cole Thomas. He's an offensive lineman out of Seattle, Washington. This coaching staff actually offered him a scholarship at Utah State, and he went and visited right after the change. And Yost was actually there coaching the team for the bowl game. He said he didn't talk to him about Texas Tech, but bottom line is he really likes the fast-paced offense. He's a 6'6" or 6'7", 265-pound athletic tackle, a guy who could really run, and the type of guy that Texas Tech's going to be looking at offensive line to run this up-tempo offense. So he has a preferred walk-on offer at Washington, where his dad played, his legacy there, so that's an option. He's considering Utah State because it's a full ride. He had a full ride to Fresno State and Virginia as well, but he's not looking at them. It's Tech, UW, or Utah State. He's going to visit Tech, I believe, February 1st. So Tech has a very good opportunity to get this guy in, and blue shirt is an option. He'll be a walk-on, but at first in the summer. But I think the coaches have talked with him about possibly being a blue shirt. So we'll see about that. It's something to keep an eye on. All right, Mighty Joe, Scarlet Ninja wants to know, it's a good question. With Kingsbury having gone to Arizona, and then of course, Carlos Lynn having great success at San Diego after being at Buffalo. That's two former Red Raiders there as head coaches in the NFL, which is pretty impressive. So Scarlet Ninja wants to know who's going to be the next former Red Raider player to be a head coach in the NFL?
Well, I mean, the obvious thing is, if he wants to do it, is Lincoln Riley. Right. In Oklahoma, but I don't know if any NFL job is better than Oklahoma. It probably doesn't pay any better. You don't have to recruit, which might be a nice thing, but I mean, that's something that, if you wanted to do that down the line, I'm sure they would be very, very receptive of Lincoln Riley in the NFL. He seems to be like their kind of guy, that what they're identifying right now is good coaching material. Yeah. But I think there's a couple of guys on the roster right now. Who knows? We're talking NFL or what,
right?
But Alan Bowman and Travis Bruffy are a couple of guys that they seem to have it. That if they want to go that route on down the line, and they're a couple of young players, obviously, right. But on down the road, I could see those guys both definitely being very successful head coaches at some level. So just something to keep an eye on if we're talking about this same subject 10 years from now.
That's good stuff. I like that, Joe. I'm just going to go out there and say Wes Welker. I mean, he's already an assistant coach there at Houston with the Texans, so he's got it in there. He's a known quantity. People who know Wes love Wes. The fact that Kingsbury is now in the NFL doesn't hurt the fact that his web of sphere of experience and relationships is going to grow even more from that. Then, of course, I mean, his time in Miami and New England, and go on, Denver, go on and on. I mean, Wes Welker has a lot of connections, and he obviously wants to coach. He's a football lifer, so I could see him ending up being a head coach of the NFL at some point. He's got to pay some more dues, but I think he's on the right track, so that would be interesting to see. But Mighty Joe, great stuff from you as always. Great questions from y'all, and until next time.